Well, hello there, and welcome to A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And today I get to cover another horror, comedy, meta self-examination in the 2011 Eli Craig hillbilly comedy. Oh, let me make sure I get the title right. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And this is definitely in that fun. For me, it's probably a bit of a refresh experience. Something where I can watch. It's fun. It's light, but it is doing something. There is an intention and meaning behind it. It's not purely, a throwaway film. It is definitely in the camp of films that I've quite extensively covered through this series and even beforehand. You know, that the era of using the slasher genre, but through the lens of comedy and through the lens of different ways of exploring it, almost as a base. So, films like Final Girls, like the oh Freaky, of course, the body swap comedy, and the two time loop slasher horror comedies by the same director. And even, going further to things like Cabin in the Woods, it definitely has that same sense of a director who's very well aware of horror tropes and yet is using them in a way that sort of gives him the flexibility to explore different genres. And the beauty of Tuck and Dale versus Evil is the fact that it's very simple. It is simply the case of two films happening in parallel, which is the Tucker and Dale film, which is about two very light-hearted, free-spirited hillbillies who simply want to enjoy their vacation home, do some fishing, and then college kids keep killing themselves in front of them for inexplicable reasons. And then one strikes up a romance with a young college girl who they rescue from drowning. And the other film is much more your typical cabin in the woods style. A bunch of teens go on a vacation or on a trip and are being horribly stalked and murdered by two crazed hillbilly serial killers. And of course you can see, based on that these are two films happening in the same space, but entirely built upon the comic misunderstandings and a comedy of error principles. And I've talked before about the line between horror and comedy and the fact that they use the same mechanisms and devices, and so they work so well. What I think really sells this film is the fact that if you simply switch the perspective, there are certain scenes where if you compiled them, you would get a more traditional slasher horror. And that's, all the scenes from the perspective of the teenagers, with the exception of Alison, who has her own thing going on. And then if you just compiled the Tucker and Dale scenes, again, it's this sweet, light-hearted comedy about a guy who doesn't really know how to talk to girls, and them trying to work out what is going on and why these teenagers keep putting themselves into mortal danger. And it genuinely has, like I say, a metatextual understanding of the slasher genre, but also a genuinely sweet nature. There's something very inexplicably sweet about it, particularly with the character of Dale, and the fact that he genuinely has become sweet for this girl and is falling over himself to try to be nice and kind and generous, and she reciprocates that, but everything is recontextualized through the lens of the other kids who see their actions as somehow threatening, and how everything is somehow some some kind of murder, serial killer, stalker, kidnapper conspiracy. Of course, amongst their ranks is this one kid who frankly, from the off, is the most sinister, threatening character that you've seen. The one where you sort of look at him and go, yeah, that kid there, that kid's a problem. Like, I mean, often with good slashers, with the quality, well-made slashers, when they've developed good character work and you actually do feel that sense of individual personalities within your core group of victims and survivors, you often do have one who is just that little bit strange or the little bit sinister. I mean, of course, off the top of my head, I'm thinking something like the wheelchair kid from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Robbie from Scream, where you think in a different context and a different world, you might have been the threat, or there is something a little bit off about this particular character. And what I like about the film is, because Tucker and Dale are genuinely innocent of any crime, and they genuinely are well-intentioned and trying to help, this kid is given the opportunity to really go full sort of Patrick Bateman style, like, oh, he is going to be more and more of a problem over the course of this film. And yes, it is an incredibly graphic film in terms of the violence and gore, but that's, unfortunately, the humour and the shock factor only really works if you lean into that element of the horror. So, you know, you have like kids inexplicably throwing themselves into wood chippers, or skewering themselves with hatchets, or falling onto chainsaws. And yeah, it is quite a little bit graphic, and yet it's funny because you get the reaction, and again, it feeds into that comic style of the humour comes from other characters reacting to the over-the-top nature of sort of the events unfolding. And so as Tucker and Dale are reacting to all of these shocking things, and they are genuinely like quite overwhelmed by everything happening around them, they genuinely have no intention of causing any harm to anyone. That's where the humour comes from, and particularly with certain death scenes and the way that they have to sort of cope with what is happening to them. And it is a simple film. It's just a fun romp. Like I say, if you're a horror fan, you'll love it. If you're a sort of comedy horror fan, you'll love it. And I think if you just like comedy and you want something a little bit different, a little bit toothier, I think it really satisfies that itch as well. I think it was really fun and a nice, light, refreshing film. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment below, and share the video, because it's all helping the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell to get notifications of when new videos are being uploaded. Do check out my back catalogue of over 150 videos, and follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I'm always tweeting about films and TV series, and sharing links to these videos once they're on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. Take care.